Hi, I'm Florette, and thanks for joining me in my studio today. We are going to have so much fun creating all the pieces of this new kit, I'm Wishing. And my inspiration for this kit was the story of Snow White, which was one of my favorite growing up. So it has a really soft, vintage, foresty feel to it. But of course, you could take all of these pieces and use different pattern papers and give it a totally different feel. Use it for a different occasion, birthdays, weddings, showers. The list goes on. So you can be very creative and make them all your own and very original, or create them just as I have here. And first we have this shadow box. It has a really soft, nice foresty feel to it. You can use the scene just as you see here, or you can use the pieces separately in a card or put photos inside or mementos. So it's a really versatile file. Then we have this nice lacy card, and you can put any sentiment on it. It has a lot of great elements that you could use on other paper projects or other things that you're doing as well. So that's a nice, versatile, fun little card to create. And my favorite piece is, of course, the wishing well. And what's really fun about it, as you saw in the video, that the bucket actually works and you can raise and lower it. So it makes a great gift on itself. You can put a little treat inside or a special gift. Makes a great centerpiece too. Then we have this nice little scallop box, and it has a window so you can see the treats inside, but it also comes with a file that does not have a window, so if you want to keep the surprise a surprise, you can. You can even increase the size of the box for a larger item. Lastly, we have this little vintage frame, and I put a little black and white photo of my daughter inside because I thought it gave a nice antique feel to it. You could easily put a sentiment inside, fold it flat, and mail it to someone. So you see we've got a lot of fun pieces. If you want to create it just as I have here, you can use what I did, the Graphic 45 Botanical Tea Pack. It has a lot of pretty papers, they're double-sided, and it's just really great paper. So grab your paper, grab your glue, and let's get crafting. Here we have our scallop box. I've already laid out all the pieces, and this is what the finished one is going to look like when we're all done. So first I've gone ahead and I've glued on a little frame on the outside and the window, which you're going to glue to the inside of the box. And that just takes a few minutes to dry. So you can do that and set it aside and work on some of the other pieces. But I wanted to show you, you'll get a piece that cuts out like this rectangle here, and that is your template for the window. And I just used a plastic Ziploc baggie. I lined it up and cut around the outside. You of course could cut this out using your machine, but I just find it's just a quick and easy cut to do for the window. So the first step you're going to do is, of course, fold all of your tabs. Once you've done that, we're going to add glue to this first tab here. And we're just going to line these two pieces up like so. And if you get a little glue, don't worry, it won't show. It dries clear. I'm just going to line these two up and squeeze them together. And the most important part is to make sure your top edge and your corners are lined up. If you take care with that, your box is going to turn out just beautifully. You're going to do the same to the other side. I'm going to fold it over, put a little glue on this tab. Sometimes I smush it so I make it get to the very edge. I'm going to hold both sides and squeeze them together. Get a little glue, just squeegee it off. And I like to put my fingers inside the box and really squeeze these tabs together. You might hold it a little longer to dry as I'm going a little faster for the video. And you're going to turn your box over. This is going to be the bottom of your box. As you can see, this goes together fairly quickly. I'm just going to put a little glue on each tab, fold it over, line it up, and hold it to the bottom of the box for a minute. I just like to make sure all my edges are nice and tight. And once I feel like I've got some good adhesion, I turn my box over, and I'll take a dowel rod or something like that, and I'm going to push down the tabs on the inside just so they're all real nice and tight. And there we have the bottom of our box. Real quick and simple. The top's going to go together much the same way. I'm just going to put a little glue And you can see I get a little heavy with my glue sometimes. I have a bad habit of that, but it always turns out. So if you do the same, don't stress about it. It will all work out. And then when you put your tabs together, sometimes I'll even bend them over and squeeze them together. So I get a nice tight corner. I'm going to do the same to the other side. This tab right here, put a little glue, fold it over to my other corner. I always like to have like a scrap piece of paper so I can wipe any glue off of my fingers that I've squeegeed off from inside the corners. Now our top is almost done. I'm just going to fold down all of these tabs and glue the top of the box just as we did the bottom. I'm just going to line it up like so. You can see it just kind of forms itself. You just kind of guide it a little. And I like to turn it over, and you can use your finger or a dowel rod, the back of a pencil or a pen, just to squeeze down those tabs nice and tight with the glue. And there we have the top of our box. And then all I would do is take a little embellishment and a little hot glue. I'm going to put a dab of glue on there and stick it on the corner. I just think it looks cute, adds a little something extra. Hold that for a second, then we're going to move on to our bow. And you can see the box is pretty much all finished. We're just going to add the bow. Now you could use the paper bow that comes with this kit, which is right here, or you could, put a fabric bow. So all you're going to do for the bow, it's also very simple. I just take my dowel rod and I'm going to give it a nice little bend around so it kind of just gives a nice curl. I'm going to do that to both sides. Then I'm just going to add some glue to the middle and take this tab and push it down. Hold it for a second. I'm going to do the same thing here. Another little dot of glue. Put this tab down. You can see it's forming this bow shape. I'm going to do the same to the smaller one. Give it a nice little curl on both sides. Put a little glue in the center. You can see this is forming the smaller bow that's going to go on top. Another dab of glue here. Hold them together. Then I can go ahead and glue all of these together. I'm just going to take my glue, put a dab of, well actually I'm going to glue these together first because I want to put this little band around them. So I'm going to hold the two pieces together like this. You could do hot glue at this point. It would go a little faster. You wouldn't have to hold it as long. Then you're going to take this little band and you're just going to bend it around to the back and glue it on. Like so. Just kind of gives a little wrap around extra little piece. I'm going to hold that. Put a dab of glue in the middle of the base of my bow. And I'm just going to sandwich them all down and hold it with my dowel rod for a minute so it pushes nicely down, and then these are all going to fold up. Again, you can use hot glue here if you'd like. It would go a little faster. Then you're just going to take it, put a little glue on the bottom, and glue it to the top of your box. And hold that on for a second. And there you have it. Fill it with some treats and you're all set, and you have a really cute finished little box. And here you can see I filled it with treats, and of course the kit also comes with one without the window, and so it would look like this, and you could embellish the front, and that way people wouldn't see what was inside. Here we have our lacy card. And what I've done is, first I'm going to put the base together, and you've got score marks at the top. But I have double-sided paper, so I cut an extra backing, and I'm just going to glue that to the inside. That way I can write whatever I want on the inside and it'll show. So you're just going to glue that right to the edge, and I just trimmed off the top of the back piece right at the score line, like I said, because I'm using double-sided paper. And just smooth that down real nice. Then you're going to put glue at the top edge where your score line is, and glue the top to the bottom. Just line it up like so and squeeze it together. You just want to line it up nicely so that it opens and closes. I squeeze it, and then you can see it's going to open nicely like so. I'm just going to set that to the side, and I'm going to show you how to make the little flowers that go on the front. They're real easy to do. You just have the two petals. You're going to squeeze them in the center like this and just kind of give them an upward bend. Do the same to the other one. Upward bend. I'm going to put a little dab of glue in the center. I'm going to overlap the petals, gluing them together like so. I'm just going to form it. And you can see you've got a little thing. If you get a little glue, don't worry too much about it. I love this little hook tool because I can get in there and grab the extra glue, because as you know, I tend to be a little heavy with my glue sometimes. Even if I were to leave it, it dries clear, so it's really not too big a deal. Then you have your little stamen. I'm just going to bend those little pieces upward like that. I'm going to put a little dab of glue in the center of my flower, and I'm going to put it right in the center. And I like this hook because I can push it down into the glue and center it rather than using my fingers. Then you've got your leaf. You're just going to put a little dot of glue on it and put your flower on it, and then set those aside to dry while you work on the rest of your card. You've got just these two pieces, which are the swag. I'm just going to glue those together. A lot of times I actually will glue the back with the cutouts so that I don't put glue on the parts that are open. I'm just going to line it up like so. And then you can see the cute little color variation coming through. And again, I'm going to just set that aside, get a little extra glue, just scrape it off. And I'm going to set that right here. Next, you're going to have your three pieces. Now, what I like to do with these is give them a little dimension once I add the other pieces. But the first piece, I am just going to add some glue to the back of my card here, around the edges, like so. Then I'm going to line this up so that it just kind of goes around the edge of the circle in the back like this, and it's going to overlap in the front. So you can see you just have the edge that goes all the way around on the back, and just squeeze it together like so. Next, you're going to take your second piece, and this is where I like to use the pop dots just to give it extra dimension. I'm just going to add one to the center and a couple all the way around. That should be enough. Peel these backings off. And I'm going to center that right onto our center circle. I'm going to do the same with this one. Now you could just glue them flat on if you'd like to, but I just like the added dimension. I think it looks really pretty. Just adds that extra special touch. And again, you're just going to take this and center it in this circle right here. And you can see it's already really coming together. Next, I'm going to put my flowers on. And I'm just going to start with the bottom one. Put a little dab of glue. Sometimes I like to use hot glue at this point just because it dries so much faster. Okay, and I'm just going to overlap, and maybe I am going to use my hot glue so I can move along. There we go. And I dropped my hot glue, so I'm just going to use my regular glue now. You can see I'm just kind of putting them on the different levels and squeezing them together so that they all kind of overlap. And it kind of gives it a really nice dimensional look to it. And then I'm going to later tuck in my little sentiment. I'm going to take my swag. I'm just going to put a little glue on the back of it right here. And I'm going to glue that near the top, but kind of right near the top so that these come off the edge of the circle. Of course, you can align this any way you like. Use your own creativity, make it a little different, but I think it looks really cute like that. Lastly, we got the birds. Well, not lastly, we still do have the sentiment. And on these, I put a double layer of pop dots because I went, it's 2 layers up with the other pop dots. So I just glue 2 together like so. I think it looks really nice that way. And I'm just going to line up my little bird so it looks like he's carrying the swag. I'm going to do the same to the other one. Just put the 2 together. Peel it off. And this size seems to work really nicely right in the center of the belly. And if you ever have a pop dot that's a little too big, I just use my scissors and I cut them in half. Makes them go a little further too. So I'm gonna put this one right here on the other side, just kind of making sure they're in the same position. And you can see it looks really cute. We're almost done. For my banner, you can put it in straight like that, or I kind of like to give it a little curve, like so, using a dowel rod. And give the back end a little, put a little glue on the edge here, and just tuck it behind the flowers. And there you have it, the lacy card. And you could use these elements on all kinds of things. So it's a really fun, pretty card, easy to put together. So here we have the base structure of our wishing well. And you can see I've laid out all my pieces. I've already glued on the overlays. And these are the stone cutout overlays. There's also a set of overlays that are solid, so if you wanted to use a different pattern paper, you could do that as well. But you'll notice I glued 3 on in a row, skip a space, and then glue 3 on in a row and skip a space. And the reason for that is because our pillars, the sides of our well, are going to glue onto these open spaces. So let's get started. The first part we're going to do is glue the base of our well together by gluing this side tab. And you want to line this up so the top is even. And you're just going to squeeze that together so you get a nice tight fit. And let that dry. Now we're not going to put our bottom on yet. We're just going to set this aside for a second because now we're going to work on the pillars that go on each side. And you can see those are these pieces, one on each side of your well. So you're just going to fold your score lines. then we're going to glue this tab right here to the other side. And they just fit nicely, real simple. You just slide them together, and you can stick your finger into the sides here and give it a squeeze. And let that dry. Now we're going to leave these open for the time being, just like we did with the bottom of the well. So we're going to move to our next step, and we're going to glue on the pillars. I'm just going to add some glue to the side. Now the top is going to have the hole in it, and that's going to be for your handle. So we're going to line it up at this bottom edge here to this bottom edge here. So I'm just going to line it up and then take my finger and I can stick it into the hole here. And that's why I leave the bottom off at this point, because it gives me the ability to squeeze this side and this side with my finger inside the pillar so I can get a nice tight fit. Just give that a second to dry. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Now you might let yours dry just a little longer. I'm moving along quickly for the video. Again, I like to give this tab a little bend just so I can make sure to get my edges lined up. I'm just going to set it on there, make sure they're even, and again just squeeze it together so I get a nice tight fit. And I can put my finger in on this side, and my finger is just pressing down on the inside of this, and I'm holding the other side with my hand so that the glue adheres really nicely. Okay, now I would hold that again a little longer. So next we're going to put the bottom of our well in. So I'm going to fold up these tabs here. I'm going to set it down. I'm going to take our liner and put a little glue on the outside edges. And this you might want to use a scrap piece of paper underneath, because what I'm going to do is slide it down to the inside here. You can see I'm just sliding it in. And here's where I might use a dowel rod, just so I can push that down onto the tabs. Okay, now I can put my bottoms on. I'm just going to fold the sides of the pillars. And it looks like I missed one here, so I'm just going to add a little glue and glue that one down. I'm going to take the bottom piece first. Make sure you get to the edges. And I'm going to glue that right on to the bottom of my well. And at this point, once you kind of squeeze it down, again you can lay it flat, use your dowel rod just to flatten it and get it nicely sandwiched together. I like to go around the edges so it gets a nice tight fit. Then I'm going to just pop these onto the bottoms of our pillars. Go around the edges. And it just gives it a finished look. I mean, you could even skip this part if you didn't want to have the bottoms on there, but I think it gives a nice finished look. And you're just going to hold it there for a second till the glue adheres. And I'm going going to do the same thing to the other side. You can even put your glue right on your tabs. That will work as well. And I'm just going to shape it and squeeze it onto the bottom till it holds till my glue dries. And once that's all dry, we're going to flip it over, and now we're going to move on to our roof. So here we have our roof pieces, and you'll notice I haven't glued anything yet, because what we're going to do is we're going to fold these tabs up this way. This is the outside, and this is going to be the inside. And before we glue anything together, I found the easiest thing to do is we're going to need to slide these pillars into the openings of the roof. And you can just bend it a little to squeeze it in, but it will fit perfectly. Okay. Do the same thing to the other side. Just going to finagle it in there. You want it to be it's a little tight, but you want it that way so that it has a nice tight, clean line once you glue it together. Okay, so once you have them in there, you're then going to line up these tabs with the edges of the pillars. You're just going to slide your roof up a little bit, like so. And then I'm going to put a little bit of glue. I'm going to bend down these tabs so that I know where it's going. And I'm going to put a little glue around the edge of my pillar. And it doesn't matter if it's messy at this point, because this is not going to show at all. It's going to be on the inside of your roof. So you're just going to slide it up and glue down, hold the tabs down to the edges. I always over glue, but it always works out. It all sticks together. And you can see this side is already done. And we're going to do the same to the other side. You can even slide it down a little at this point to get the glue around the edge. I'm going to slide it up, and I'm going to squeeze these tabs around the edge. You can see from the underside you might get a little glue, but again, this is not going to show. It's going to be clear. You may not use as much glue as I do. I always seem to squeeze out too much glue. I have a heavy hand when it comes to squeezing that bottle. Okay, so once you have those in place, you're going to bend up this front tab, and you're going to glue it to the back side of your roof. Like so. And you're going to leave the sides open so I can, again, use my fingers on the insides and squeeze it together. And then I can go inwards and just make sure it's nice and glued together. Now we're going to have roof overlays on this as well, so all of this is going to be covered up also. So once you get that, then you're just going to bend your roof sides. I'm going to put a little glue on these outside tabs. You're going to take your triangle pieces and you're going to put those on the sides. And this is forming the side of your roof. Then you're going to go ahead and do that to the other side. Now we're going to move on to decorating the outside of this well with all the pretty elements that go on it. Okay, we're ready for our shingles. Now you can see I've laid them all out here, and you can see mine have a little bit of a stained look on the edges, and what I used was Tim Holtz Distress ink with one of these dabbers, and I just did all my edges like this, and then the top piece I did edges, the center, however you like, just to give it a nice aged look. And once you have that done and our base is complete, we're going to start by putting our side pieces on. We're just going to put a little glue around the edges like this, and you can put a little in the center, and we're going to adhere it to the side of our roof. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Just place it right on there. And then I'm going to set that aside and let that dry. And we're going to glue our shingles together, and when they're all glued together, it's going to look a little something like this. And these are super easy to do. You're just going to take your largest piece, put a line of glue at the top, take your next piece, you're going to line them up at the top edges and just glue them together. And you have a little wiggle time with your glue if you need to adjust it at all. And again, I'm going to just put a line at the top, glue on my next shortest piece. And you can see they're just stacking one on top of the other, so they're going to be evenly spaced all the way to the top. And you can see we already have this side complete. Now you'll notice on this one they have they kind of come up like real shingles, and all I did to do that was I kind of just gave the bottom edges a little bend, and I went to each one and just bent each shingle up a little bit. I thought it gives a nice dimensional look and realistic look to the roof. And there you have the nice dimension to it. Then our last piece is going to go on the top. So now we're going to grab our wishing well, and we're just going to, you can put the glue right on here if you like, it might be easier. I'm going to put glue all over the top of our roof, like so. And you're just going to line this up to the top of your roof and glue it down. And take your time. I'm going to kind of move on so that we can get the other side on. But you're going to want this top part especially to be glued down. And I'm just squeezing it so I get a nice tight fit. And you can hold it for a minute. And even after you get your other side in, you might have a little bit of time to maneuver it or squeeze it down. I'm going to put the other side on. Squeeze it down. And once those are both nice and dry, like so, you're just going to take the top roof and you're going to put a little glue on it in the center. But you don't want to glue these shingles here because again you're going to want to bend those up. So just do the top piece here. And you're going to glue that right at the top of your roof to give it a nice finished top. And once that's glued down, I would let it dry a little longer. You can bend these up as well. And I just think that looks really cute. Looks like real little shingles that have weathered over the years. Okay, So now we have our roof, our base is complete. We're going to move on to our vines and our flowers. So now we're going to attach our vines and our flowers. Now I've already gone ahead and put together our flowers, and I showed you how to put these flowers together earlier when we did the lace card, because they're the same type of flower. So to start, what you're going to do, and it may look hard, but it's actually really easy, and you're just going to take your vine and you're going to put glue at the very bottom, just a little bit, and you're going to glue that right on to the bottom edge of your well right here, and you're going to hold that for a second. You're only going to want to glue right there. Take your time to let it dry, and as you can see, as I'm going to start bending it upwards and start gluing it in little spots so that it gets a nice bend all around, and it looks like then it's climbing up the sides. So you're just going to put a little dab of glue in this spot here, and you can see it's kind of coming off the side, which is what I want, so it gives it like that real viney look. And you're just going to, again, you'll have a piece here. You're just going to take a little dot of glue and glue it to the front right here. And don't worry about your glue coming out, because you're going to have flowers and different things on there. Maybe you're better with using less glue than I am. And then this one, I'm just going to give it a little dot here. Kind of have it creeping out from underneath. I'm just kind of holding it, and you can see here how it's kind of looks like it's climbing around, but we're really just gluing it in little spots. And then to get it to come around the roof, I'm just going to bend it like this. And again, I'm just going to glue it, put a little dot of glue, and I'm going to hold it on to the roof like so. Hold it till it's drying, and it'll hold itself. Oh, not ready yet. I'm just going to hold it down. You can see this looks nice because it looks like it's curling around. And I'll probably put another little dab of glue on this one. And I'm going to glue this little piece down. Just a little dot of glue will hold it. And I'm going to glue this one. So you can see I'm just putting a small little amount, and I'm going to glue that right up here. And now you can see it's really bending around, and it looks like it's climbing all over this wishing well. And then the back one, again, I'm just going to bend it around my well, see where I want it to go. I'm going to put a little dot of glue on this. Again, I always put way too much. You don't need very much. And I'm just going to hold that down. You can see it's all twisting and turning all around our well. Okay. And I'm going to take our 3 flowers and put them at the top. I'm going to take the largest one, and I think it looks pretty right here. And you can put it anywhere you like. It just happens to be where I think it looks cute, and I can use my little tool here to hold it down nice and tight for me. I'm going to put another one on, and I'm going to turn my leaves so they're pointing in different directions. I just think it gives a nice feel. And you don't have to hold them very long, because they will hold and then they will dry. Just let them set. And we're just moving along. I'm going to put one, I think one will look really cute on the side here. Right on that vine. I'm just going to hold that one for a second. I don't want to push that one down because I want it to kind of look like it's bending around the outside. I'm going to add another one down here at the front. And then so it's climbing, this is climbing all over. I'm going to put one up here. So I'm just staggering them all along the pillar. And you can see it's really coming to life. And I'm going to add just one more on this side, right near the top here, because I think that looks really cute. I'm just going to hold it a second while it dries. Excuse me if you hear my voice. I've had a little bit of a cold, but I wanted to make sure and get this video done for you. And there you go. We have one side complete. Now you're going to do the same thing, the same exact thing to the other side of your well. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to do the bucket and the handle. Now we're going to put together our cute little bucket. But before I do that, I noticed in the other video I was a little high up. So I just wanted to show you where I placed the 3 flowers on the roof and then how they wind around the side. And you're going to make sure to leave your holes open so that you can put the wire through for your handle. Okay, for the bucket I like to just give it a nice little curve. You're going to see a couple score lines here, and that's just for your glue. You don't want to bend that, otherwise you'll have a crease in your bucket. So you're just going to add a little glue to the end. And that score line is just a guide for you to glue one side to the other. So you can see where they're going to overlap. So you're just going to glue the 2 sides together. Give it a nice squeeze. Fold down your tabs. We're going to take our liner and we're going to glue the liner to the inside of our bucket. Just put a little glue around the edge. We're going to pop that down on the inside and just push it down. You can see it's in there, but I want to really sandwich it to my tabs, so I'm using my dowel rod, going around the edges so it's nice and tight. Then I'm just going to add some more glue to the outside. And I'm going to put my bottom on. I'm just going to set it on there, squeeze it down. Again, use my dowel rod and sandwich it together. And last, you're just going to take your handle and give it a little curve with your fingers. Put a little dab of glue on each end. And you're just going to put them on each side of your bucket and hold it down until it dries. And there we have our cute little bucket. Now for our handle, I just took a coat hanger and I took some nice heavy wire snips and I cut my coat hanger to 7 inches. Then I'm going to go about 2 inches inward, and I'm going to take 2 pairs of pliers for this. Now if you don't want to use heavy pliers like this, you could use a thinner gauge wire, would also work. And I'm just going to bend it down and then bend this part up to make my handle. And you can see now I have a nice handle. And we're just going to take that with the open end and then slide it through all of our holes. Make sure they line up. And you're going to want to give it a little room so you can turn it. So the end, I'm going to pull it in, but I'm really only going to bend, and this is also where sometimes a second pair of pliers comes in handy. I'm going to grab it, and I'm only going to give this a small bend to the end. And this is probably the hardest part of the whole project because this wire is tough. But there we go. We got a nice little bend in it. and we have our handle. Okay? So the last part of this is our twine. I just tie it onto my bucket like this. Just give it a little knot. And then you can trim off the extra. Then I'm going to set that in my well. I'm going to lay it down, and I'm going to tie the other end on, just with a simple knot. I'm just going to tie it on. I don't know if you can see that. I'm just putting a little knot in it. If you want to give yourself a little extra twine to work with, you can do that too. So once you get a nice knot in there, it's not going to roll up because you can see it's going to flop around. I'm going to trim off my end. And this is where I'm going to hold it in the center. And I'm going to take a little hot glue and put a dab of glue right on there, and that's going to hold it, and I'm going to give it a little spin and just get my hot glue so that my string is really nice. Now it's not going to move, and I can wind it up. And I used a lot of twine. You can do a shorter amount if you want, depending on how far you want it to look like your bucket is going down. And there you have it. And it's working wishing well. So really not that hard to make. Really fun piece that I know a lot of people will really enjoy. Now here we have the vintage frame, and you can see it just consists of a few simple pieces, and I already cut out a picture, and it comes with a little template that you can use to size the picture to fit your frame perfectly. So all you're going to do is put a little glue around the edge of your picture, like so, just a little bit. Then I'm going to center that right behind the frame. You can see I'm just centering it. If I get a little extra glue, I'll just scrape some of that off. And it dries clear. Then if you wanted to have a different color show through these pieces here, you could use the extra backing, and then that would give you 3 different colors. Or you can just, leave that aside and just go with the back here, and it's a little quicker to assemble. And then you're going to just glue this piece on to the larger back. Just put a little glue and center it on the back of the frame. Now I put a picture in here, but you could definitely put a little sentiment, turn it into a card, something like that. This is a really simple piece. Then you have the stand. I'm just going to glue it right to the center, like so. I'm going to come down a little bit further, a little more in the center actually. And then this little piece, you're just going to glue it to the base of the stand. Anywhere is fine. It's just to keep it from sliding back when you set it on your tabletop or your desk. And you'll take a little longer than I am. And that's going going to take a minute to dry. So I'm just going to set that aside and show you how it's going to look when it's all dry. And basically it's just going to stand up like that. And then I just added a nice little element to the top with some twine and glued that on with some little hot glue. If you want to give it this aged look like I have, I used a little of this Distress ink. I find it really nice. And you just take a sponge and you're just going to dab it all around the edges. And you can even do it on your photo. You can see here I did it on the photo and it kind of gave it that nice burnt look, antique feel to it. And there you have the antique frame. Nice, simple, looking for something quick. This is a great file for that. Here we have our shadow box, and we're going to build this step by step. First, you have a large square, and I want you to fold all your score line. Then you have 2 strips that look like this, and these are going to form the inside edge of your shadow box. So I found one of the easiest ways to do this is fold these score lines right side facing down, and then the side that's going to show is going to be here. So I'm going to just add glue right onto the 2 tabs here. And you can see this is going to form the inside. And I like to do these in 2 pieces so that I can line it up exactly along the edge of the inside of my box so that I get all the corners nice and tight to the edges. And you can turn it and just flatten it down so that it sticks nice and tightly. And you see we have nice corners, and then we've got that piece already down, and that's one of the inside pieces of your box. Then you're going to take the other side, and this tab is going to be glued to the back side so that your tabs, you don't want them to show on the inside corners. So I'm going to actually glue the tabs last, these side tabs. And we're going to do the same thing that we did before. I'm just going to glue the long tabs down to the inside of my box. I'm going to line it up right along the edge, nice and close. And don't worry if you get glue like I just did on the inside here, because that's going to all be covered up on the inside. It won't show. Now you can see we've got 4 nice corners. Our sides are lined up right to the edge of the inside of our box. Now I can go ahead and glue these tabs into place to secure the corners. I'm going to turn it around. I've got one last tab here. This way you're just sure not to glue your tab to the wrong side, because like I said before, you don't want it showing on these inside corners. It just gives you a really nice clean edge. Once those are down, you're just going to fold down these flaps here, and we're going to fold these over and glue them right onto these side flaps. I'm just going to put a little glue here, and I'm going to glue this edge right here. And with this, you can even stick your finger inside there at this point so that you can get a nice tight edge. And I'm just going to go ahead and do that most of the way around. But here I have tabs, so I'm going to start gluing my tab to the inside because I don't want it to show on the outside of my frame. So I'm now going to glue that down and hold it into place. And at this point you can actually go around the edges and do all of these side tabs now that we've got a start on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue all of these tabs, corner tabs down, because I can get my fingers in here nicely. Make sure everything is secured. And if you see a little summer here, or spring, and we're getting a few little summer bugs flew in my studio with me. And I'm going to pull through this last one. You can see this goes together nice and easy. Now once that's done, I have all of these folded inward, and I'm just going to glue the rest of these down like so. And if you get a little messy in here, don't really worry about it, because all of this is going to be covered up with an overlay to go over it and cover all your mitered corners that go together. So you're not going to see any of this here from the outside. And you can see this will be the front of our box, and then this will be the back of our box, and this will all be covered up in the back in the next few steps. Okay, so now we have an actual frame, and now we're going to move on to the inside diorama. I like to put that in before I put the back on, so that I can work from the back and the front. It's just easier to get all of these pieces glued down without the back on, and I put the back on last. So here we have all the inside pieces of our diorama, and you can see I've already gone ahead and folded all the score lines. You're going to have on the first piece one on the bottom and one on the side here, and that's going to be the back, very back piece, and we're going to put that one in. I've also gone ahead and glued on this top overlay piece of grass so that it's a different color than my deer. So I'm going to set these pieces aside, and we're going to work on our first piece. Remember, this is the front of our box, and this is the back of our box. So all we're going to do is take our first piece, and these fit in just perfectly. You're just going to put a line of glue here on all the tabs. And you can put it in, you know, from the back side at this point, so that you line it up right on the edge. And I'm just going to fit it inside my box and line up this back edge, because this is the very back piece of our diorama. And now you can see why we did not put the back on our shadow box yet. And I'm just going to line all of this up, and it fits perfectly inside here. And I'm just going to flatten it out and glue down my edges and my tabs right to the edge. And same with the side here. And you can see we already have our first piece in. Now we're going to do the same thing with the second piece. Put a little glue line on the bottom and the side tabs. This time I'm going to go in from the front, and I'm just going to line it up and butt it right up against the other piece. And you can use that bottom tab as your guide. And to get in there, I use like the end of a paintbrush or a dowel rod so that I can flatten down my tabs. inside there. If you can see that on the sides. And this goes together really easily. Now you can also at this point, if you want, you don't really have to, but if you want to make sure that these two pieces stay separated or have a little bit of dimension to it, you can add a pop dot to this last branch here and adhere it to the front tree like that. Well, I got it a little over so that's showing, so actually I'm going to move it down just a tad. There we go. And that just will keep the pieces separated a little more. It doesn't really need it, but it's just an extra added thing. I'm going to take my third tree and I'm going to put the glue and do the same thing all the way down for all the pieces. Now this one has a few on the side here. I'm just going to slide this in and do the same thing. That's what's nice about being able to get around to the back side, is I can maneuver all my pieces right into place. And then I have these little side tabs. I'm going to glue those down. And you can see we're almost finished with the front here. Just going to stick that down. I've gotten a little heavy with my glue, but that's okay. I always seem to get heavy with my glue. Okay, and then lastly, well, not lastly, we have two pieces here. I'm going to do the same with my deer. And you don't have to worry about where the placement goes because it fits right in the center. Your tabs will guide you the whole way. And again, I can use my paintbrush and just kind of get into these corners to push them down. Hold that for a second. Let it dry, just so it adheres. And you can wait just a little longer than I am. And I'm going to push that down. You can see with this paintbrush end, I can get right down in between the layers and make sure they're nice and glued down. Now this last piece of grass, you could either glue it straight to it, but I like, for this I do like to use the pop dots because it gives that added dimension to it. I'm just going to put one right here. And then one over here, that should do it. And maybe one on the end here. If I can squeeze it down in there. There we go. And you can always cut these in half if yours are a little larger. Peel off the backs. And I'm just going to glue that right, stick it right to the grass in front. And there you can see we've got a nice diorama. Next we can put on, this is the frame, it's going to go on the outside just so it gives a really nice clean edge all the way around. Now you can put your glue right on your box if you'd like. I want to get around the edges. Main thing is just get the edges here. And I'm going to take it and just lay it down and line it up so that I meet all the edges, and then flatten it down. And I think this is really fun. It goes together so easily, but I can see also putting in some really nice, a nice photograph inside here with maybe some mementos from a vacation or something, maybe a drawing your child did, and then you can put in some little trinkets. Then we're going to flip it over and we're going to put our back on. So again, I'm just going to outline the edges here. You can see this went together really fast, real easy, and we're almost done. And our back right here, we're just going to lay that on, and that's what's going to show from the other side. I'm just going to flatten that down. And there you can see the sky in the background. And then the last piece is our hanger, if you want to put that on. It has a tab you're going to just fold over. Then these are just extra support for if you hang it on a nail or something. It just gives it a little, because it is paper, this just makes it a little stronger. And I have 2 rings just to make it a little bit thicker on the part that's going to be hanging. Of course, you could set it on a desktop as well. Once I have those rings on, I'm just going to put a little glue on the back tab here. Kind of line it with the top here in the center and glue it down. Now you can hang it on the wall, set it on the mantle, anything you want to do. And it makes a great gift. And then lastly, what I did is I just took some nice little embellishments and some nice little trendy twine. I put the twine on and I used my hot glue gun and I just glued the elements onto the outside. I also, as you can see, this has a little bit of an antique look to it. I just used a little distress ink with the dabber and I just dabbed all around it with the ink, and I did that before I put my embellishments on. You can do that for the edges of the trees or anything like this. This one is Tim Holtz Distress Ink Antique Linen. I really like this one because it just gives a really soft, almost like a tea-stained look. Well, thanks for joining me in my studio today, and I hope you've enjoyed creating these really fun projects with me. If you make some, please share them on the Facebook page, as well as I know everyone else, just love seeing all the projects that you make. So have a great day and happy crafting. See you again soon.